Hi folks, welcome back to Zach's Game Corner. You know, ever since I popped into existence all those years ago, I've wanted to go see the world. Just the idea of seeing everything that this planet has to offer is just magical. See, the thing is, that's really expensive, so for now we're stuck with this. Open world games are a truly unique experience that can only be achieved through the medium of video games. Typically, an open world game provides the player with a large expanse of land that they can explore to their heart's content. Most also have plots that can be changed by the way that the player interacts with their environment and the locations and characters within it. The game Adventure for the Atari 2600 is decidedly the first open world game, releasing in 1980. The gameplay consisted of the player controlling a yellow square from a top-down camera angle. One Pixel Pikachu here has to explore the big ugly world he lives in, finding keys with which to open doors and progress to new areas. Other open-world games throughout history include the original Dragon Quest trilogy and many of the Final Fantasy games, which utilize a large world map to represent the overworld and have icons representing locations that the player could enter. Some prime examples of modern open-world games would be the Elder Scrolls series, the Far Cry games, and Spider-Man PS4. Of course, hundreds of games fall into the genre, but for today's video, I'll mostly be focusing on two 3D open-world games, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Fallout New Vegas. These are probably the two best open-world games I've ever played. Now before we jump right into it, I'd like to mention that 3D open world games are my personal favorite genre of video game. I understand that the idea of a huge open world to explore just doesn't appeal to some people, but I will be heavily praising it in this video, so you've been warned. So the first game I'm going to focus on is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. The game launched alongside the Nintendo Switch on March 3rd, 2017 and released on the Wii U the same day. Breath of the Wild was Game of the Year 2017 almost everywhere you looked. It was a true innovation in gaming exploration. I mean, it better have been. They spent 4 years developing the thing. Like most Zelda games, Breath of the Wild's plot is, simple, but the draw of the game comes from the massive open world and exploration thereof. The gameplay is primarily built around melee battles against groups of small enemies or large bosses, with some bow play mixed in. The battle system is very intuitive, but it's only a very small portion of the 145 hours I've spent playing the game. Most of my in-game time was spent exploring the vast land of Hyrule, taking on side quests from minor characters, and trying to see every single thing that the game had to offer. See, my first time through, the main quest of the game took me 40 hours, but many have managed to beat the game in mere minutes with no exploits or cheats. I mean, just take a look at the American cover art for the game. It shows Link looking not at the camera, but instead facing the huge world out in front of him. It represents the expanse of the game pretty well, and is also just a beautiful piece of artwork. If I was stuck in a dumpster for a couple of weeks, this would probably be the #1 game I'd like to have with me. It's just so expansive, and it really sets a new standard for open world games. It's basically the massive world space from the original Legend of Zelda reimagined for the modern day, and the E10+ rating means that a larger audience will be introduced to the open world genre. Switching gears entirely, 2010's Fallout New Vegas was developed by Obsidian, a company made up of the original developers of the Fallout series, and published by Bethesda Softworks. It's often called the best game in the series, and has been almost unanimously decided to be the best of the 3D Fallout games. My personal favorite is Fallout 4. Don't bully me. But I can't acknowledge that New Vegas is objectively a better game. But why was this game so much better than Bethesda's attempts at pushing the series forward? See, when Bethesda bought the IP off of Interplay back in 2007, they kind of dropped some of the role-playing elements that were integral to the originals. Since New Vegas was developed by some of the original creators of the franchise, it brought back many of the parts that classic fans loved about the original games. Fallout New Vegas is all about player choice and indirect storytelling. Some of the most fascinating places in the game have their stories told through exclusively terminal entries, notes, and inferences. That is how you make good exploration in a game. The player also makes many world-changing decisions throughout the main quest of the game, eventually deciding the fate of the world space itself in the finale. Unlike Breath of the Wild, New Vegas is a mature shooter that can be played in first or third person. The game takes place in post-apocalyptic New Vegas, and many plot lines in the story revolve around sex, drugs, gambling, and murder. Despite this, I would call the game just as beautifully deep and fascinating as Breath of the Wild is. Before I wrap up the video, I'd like to touch on a few other types of open-world games. Some games, such as Super Mario Odyssey and the modern Wolfenstein games, are told in a linear format, but the levels are actually part of much larger world spaces that can be explored post-game. Personally, I classify these as open-world games, but other people would disagree. It's like the new 3DS. It's just another 3DS, but some people do still call it a new system entirely. Some people are also wrong, but I digress. Another debatably open-world style of game is a Metroidvania. Inspired by the classic Metroid and Castlevania games, Metroidvanias are 2D side-scrollers that give the player a sense of choice in the direction they go and the chances to make story-altering choices. Despite the 2D style, the games have many opportunities for exploration, and this is a beloved genre for many. Games that fall into the genre include Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night, Hollow Knight, and Blasphemous. One final open world genre I'd like to tackle is the sandbox game. Games like Minecraft, Terraria, Ark Survival Evolved. They plop the player into a massive, sometimes infinite world space and let them do basically whatever they want. You want to build a house out of dirt? Do it. You want to track down the toughest enemy in the game and beat it after only playing for 20 minutes? Do it. Just about anything you can imagine possible in the game's world is probably possible. These are games that you can truly make your own. So what is it that makes open world games so special? Of course, everyone's gonna enjoy a game for their own reasons, but to me, open world games are so great because of the element of player choice. Sure, many linear games include a lot of player choice, but you just can't beat the idea of a massive world space at your fingertips. The entire game is built on player choice, and that means that players get the chance to experience the game in whatever way they desire. Focus on the exploration, the story, the side quests, the companions. These are games that are made for players to enjoy how they want. And that means that these games can make a special and unique connection with each and every player. Some of my favorite gaming memories come from open world games. Running around, taking in the sights in Hyrule, or hunting down a tough Power Moon in Mario Odyssey, or even just enjoying a fun game like Far Cry 5. Just being able to make a game really your own is something entirely special, and that's why open world games mean so much to me. These games let you travel to fantastical places, meet interesting characters, have an effect on a world, and it's really, really something special. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next one.